Yeah, certainly. Okay, can everyone see the presentation up on their screens now? Great. Just full screen. And I'll just sort out my display here. Okay, great. Well, thanks so much, Tyler, for the introduction. Thanks everyone for coming along. It's nice to be speaking to people in this context with very real prospects of seeing you guys in person very soon. We've actually had a few Webster students arrive on our campus the last couple of weeks, and they're all getting ready to start their classes at Roehampton. So we hope to welcome you, some of you guys, in a similar manner in the next few months or year or whatever kind of time frame you're working to. My name's Nat. I am the Roehampton Abroad Officer here at our campus in Southwest London. I'll act as kind of one of your primary points of contact within the study abroad team throughout the process if you do choose to apply to study abroad at Roehampton. We have a team of 4 at the university who are kind of committed to supporting specifically study abroad students at each stage of their journey, from the application stage to when you're getting ready to arrive, all the way through to your kind of enrollment and startup classes at Roehampton. That will continue to be a kind of familiar presence during your time on campus, should you ever get stuck or need any assistance. So I'm going to try and give you an overview of what you can expect from life at Roehampton, an academic as well as a cultural and social level as well. And I'll start off by just giving you a few facts about the university and what we offer to study abroad students specifically. So we have fall and spring study abroad programs that map pretty closely to the US academic year. We also have a short-term summer program as well. We have a highly diverse undergraduate student body of about 7,500. Of that number, around 51% identify as students of colour and 70% identify as female. So we have a very kind of welcoming and inclusive community on campus. We have 4 colleges, so we're a collegiate university. When you become a Roehampton student, you'll also become a member of one of our 4 colleges. I'll give a little bit more detail about them later on in this presentation. But each of these colleges kind of have their own unique identity and traditions, their own histories, stretching back in many cases a very long way. Whitelands College is the oldest of our 4 colleges. It was actually the first higher education institution in the UK to admit women when it founded in 1841. Another huge part of our student community is the Roehampton Students' Union, which is an organisation run by students for students with an elected set of officers who kind of the posts are renewed each year by Roehampton students who take a sabbatical year to serve as elected officers in the SU. And they also support over 60 clubs and societies that you can get involved in. And all of this kind of amazing activity and community can be found on our wonderful campus. So we're the only traditional campus university in London. We have a beautiful 54-acre parkland campus in the southwest of the city. It's one of the greenest parts of London. Our campus is fully open with teaching taking place in person and a wide array of social and cultural activities taking place. As I alluded to earlier, we do have a study abroad cohort on campus for the fall, which is made up of 77 students from different institutions. Our pre-COVID numbers were usually about 150. So we're, as you can tell, we're kind of creeping back towards kind of normal numbers. But even where we are now, we have, a very large group of study abroad students who are all kind of going through a similar experience and provide quite a nice kind of network of support and opportunities to get to know new people who are also experiencing student life at Roehampton for the first time. So a little bit more about actual what you can expect from life on this campus. So I've talked already a little bit about the colleges. So when you join the university, you will, depending on which accommodation block you're allocated to on the campus, you'll join one of our 4 colleges, which are Digby, Stuart, Frobel, Southland, and Whitelands. Each of these have their own unique atmosphere and culture. They put on social events, sports, community activities, well-being support, all associated with each college. Each college has a well-being officer and out-of-hours warden that provides any kind of on-hand support for students in terms of welfare, mental health, any kind of support that you might need during your time on campus. As I mentioned, the RSU supports a wide range of societies that are related to hobbies and interests, cultural and religious backgrounds, academic subjects, performing arts, and lots more. They're also responsible for the university's food sustainability project, which is called Roehampton, which you can volunteer with to grow fruit and veg on campus or look after our chickens. They also run the Hive Cafe on campus, which you can see in the corner of that shot in the top right of your screen, which serves really nice, sustainably sourced food and coffee on campus. We also have around 30 sports clubs at Roehampton that are open to anyone who wants to take part, either casually or competitively. We also have playing fields, basketball and tennis courts, and a gym with favourable rates for students as well. We also have a new esports room on campus, which is in the bottom right of your corner, bottom right corner of your screen now. We also have an esports society for anyone who's into video games at any particular level. And yeah, as I mentioned, the campus is also based in a really beautiful and exciting part of southwest London. We're right next to Richmond Park, which is the largest public park in London. We're also very close to fun and vibrant areas like Putney, Clapham, Wimbledon, Tooting, all of which have loads to explore. But we're also only about 20 minutes by train from the very heart of central London. So you'll really have the benefit of guaranteed accommodation on a close-knit community in a very beautiful, green and safe environment on our campus, while also having the full range of opportunities for cultural and social enrichment offered by one of the most famous historic and diverse cities in the world. So in terms of what is kind of offered specifically as part of the study abroad experience, it's very much an immersive experience we aim to offer, where you'll become an integral part of our community. You'll live more or less just like any other student. You'll have access to all the same support services from our disabilities and dyslexia service that can provide tailored support for physical and mental health conditions or disabilities. I've mentioned our wellbeing support team that's based in each of our colleges. We have a multi-faith chaplaincy team that can offer a lot of community activities and support for students of all faiths or none to get involved in. We also have a 24-hour security team, which is always on hand to make sure you're safe and comfortable on campus. And in addition to all of this, you'll benefit from a dedicated study abroad team that, as I mentioned, will provide guidance and support all the way through your study abroad experience, to make sure that if at any point you feel a little bit at a loss or not sure how to navigate the new environment, you can always come to us and we can set you on the right path to get the information and support you need. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit now, of course, about the primary reason you'll be coming to London, which is, of course, to study at Roehampton. This is an overview of the subjects we cover at the university, but please do feel free to ask any questions about specific subjects. The image you're looking at right now is our library, which opened in 2017. It has 1,200 study spaces, 400,000 books, and a huge range of digital resources and archives that you can access. Study abroad students will mostly be in classes as well as in accommodation with UK and full degree international students. You'll very much be encouraged to integrate with the wider student body at Roehampton. You'll take a full course load, the same as everyone else, which is 60 UK credits, which usually works out to 3 or 4 classes. So in addition to this kind of standard academic offering, we've also created a handful of classes specifically for study abroad students. And these are our London Studies classes. These classes have been designed by faculty at Roehampton in a way that allows us to make use of London as a learning environment. So alongside in-class discussions, students will go on field trips to locations around London, which might include galleries and museums, theatre performances, literary walking tours, Roman ruins, architectural landmarks, and much more besides that. And these classes really maximize and combine all the different kind of academic, social, and cultural benefits that come with the study abroad experience, because you'll get a chance to explore a historic global city with a new group of classmates and friends who you'll get to know through that experience. And then you'll be able to use that experience to gain perspectives that you can contextualize in the classroom. Now, of course, a really exciting thing about your study abroad experience at Roehampton is that you'll be living in one of the best cities in the world. There's kind of no end of stuff that we can talk about. The great thing about London is that, as well as all the landmark locations in the centre that you'll be very familiar with, there's loads of smaller hubs of activity spread all across the city that all have loads to do. I think this map is a little bit helpful in that regard in terms of highlighting some of the different areas around the city that are not necessarily right in the centre that are still really worth a visit. Because London's real strength is the diversity and variation you'll find across all its different neighbourhoods. And I think one of the main reasons that London is such a great place to study abroad is that it really has a global outlook deeply embedded in its history and identity. You know, it's a city that for 2,000 years, people from all over the world have been coming to and carving out their own space for themselves. And that history has culminated in a huge wealth of things to do and explore and discover in terms of cultural activities, food, festivals, arts. And I also think it means that even though London can seem like a really big and daunting place to live at first, it still has that character of a place where people can find a comfortable space for themselves, even for a short time. And for that reason, I think consistently our students tell us by the end of their study abroad experience that they really feel like Londoners. Of course, if you ever do feel a little bit lost, we're always more than happy to help. You kind of find your way, find things to do. All of the team live in London. I grew up in Southwest London, where Roehampton is based. So we're always happy to point you towards interesting and fun things to do. We've also created a social program to help you explore the city, as well as parts of the wider UK. This is an optional package created just for study abroad students. And the kind of trips that will be on offer will vary slightly from semester to semester. And obviously at the moment, we are also taking heed of COVID-related guidance in terms of making sure that the places that we do visit can be, those trips can be organised safely and responsibly. But generally, some of the things that you might get the opportunity to do would be, take a visit to see famous landmarks. Our current group of students are headed to the Tower of London in a couple of weeks. You might go and see a West End show, visit towns and cities outside of London, like Oxford, Windsor, Bath. As you can see in that photo, you might also take a trip to Stonehenge. All these trips are led by a fully qualified guide who will provide a lot of background information and history on the places you visit. Okay. Great. Okay, I'll start to move towards the end now, but I think I did want to briefly touch upon our summer school, which kind of condenses all of the best parts of the semester experience into a 3 or 6 week program. If you are interested in attending just for a summer, you would take an intensive class that's worth the same amount of credits as one semester class. And your academic experience will follow the same model as our London Studies classes in the semester, where you'll spend a lot of time on field trips around London related to the things that you'll study in the classroom. As with the semester, you'll live on campus with other students on your program. You'll have access to all the same support services that you would in the semester. So it's really kind of, it retains a lot of the best features of the semester condensed into a very short space of time. Summer's also a really great time to be in London. Every week there's a new festival or show or exhibition that's really worth seeing. Okay, great. So that really brings me to the end. There's a few bits of information on here about how the application process works. Our application is fully online. The only real bits of evidence that you would need to submit would be your most recent transcript showing a GPA of at least 2.8. If your GPA is lower than that, however, that's not necessarily cause to give up hope immediately. We can consider students with a lower GPA if you do submit any additional evidence, such as a statement from your academic advisor, or any other kind of supporting evidence of mitigating circumstances around your current GPA. So we may still be able to consider you in that instance. And then in addition to your transcript, we also need you to write a 300 to 500 word personal statement on why you want to study abroad in London. But other than that, the best place to start really, if you're interested in applying, is to speak to the team at Webster, who can get you started in the process. I'll leave this slide up for a moment, as it's got our email address and website on there, where you can reach out to us at any time if you've got any queries about the process at all. But other than that, that brings me to the end. So I'm happy now to hand back to Tyler for any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Nat. I appreciate it. And I know just kind of background for you, Nat, for people who are here, we do have some students who are here as kind of prospective students, but we also have a few students who are in the process of applying for spring, the upcoming spring semester to study at Roehampton, who have kind of some more specific questions as they're in the application process. Just a heads up for everyone, I know that Nat kind of flashed up their application, their how to apply information. So people who are in the process of applying now, just a heads up. So our deadline at Webster is September 30th. The deadline at Roehampton for the spring semester is the end of October. So there's a whole kind of extra month on the end of it. So if you are applying and you're maybe like, oh no, what else do I need to do? Don't worry. You will be hearing from me very soon. Everybody who applies through Webster will meet the first weeks of October to talk about all of the next steps. And one of the things that we'll be talking about is how to get you in and make sure that you're applied to Roehampton by the end of October. So that is something on my radar and something that we will be meeting to talk about. Nat, I do have a handful of questions here that are great questions that, like I said, for people who joined us, I think would be good to say out loud, because other people who are watching this recording later might have the same questions. But I want to make sure some of them I can answer, some of them will be better for you to answer, Nat. So first one, as far as what do students do for health insurance? All of Webster students studying abroad, regardless of where you're going, are purchased health insurance by Webster. So part of your study abroad fee that's paid to your student account pays for your health insurance through a company called GeoBlue, which provides coverage in any country in the world outside of the United States. So whether you're in the UK or you're traveling elsewhere in Europe, you'll be fully covered. There's no deductible, no copay, nothing. Things are covered at 100%, but intended for like accident and injury, illness insurance sort of thing, as opposed to like preventative care. So we'll talk more about that in the meetings coming up in October as well. But if there'll be a number, you'll get an insurance card with a number on it. If you call, they'll work with doctors that they can arrange direct payment with, to where you'll never have to pay a penny. If there is an emergency situation and you have to go to the closest hospital or something like that, if they don't work directly with the insurance provider, you'll be able to submit a claim for reimbursement. But the medical system in the UK is quite a bit different than what we have in the US. Nat, I don't know if you want to speak just in the case of like medical emergencies, or maybe less emergencies, the students just feeling ill. There are people on campus at Roehampton that kind of helps point study abroad students in the right direction about how to make a doctor's appointment or things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the point of emergency care that Tyler touched upon, so you guys will be coming, as you're just coming for less than 6 months, you'll be on a standard visitor visa. That means that in most kind of routine healthcare situations, you're not entitled to free treatment on the National Health Service. However, the exception to that is emergency care. All of emergency care in the UK is always free, no matter who you are. So if you need to take a ride in an ambulance or visit the emergency room and receive kind of immediate urgent care, you won't be billed for that. It's only kind of routine care or follow-up care that you would then need to claim on your insurance. We do have a medical centre on campus that can offer private consultations, which I think are usually about £40 each. But as Tyler mentioned, it's actually sometimes better to consult your insurance provider if you need to make a doctor's appointment, because they may actually be able to book an appointment on your behalf with a service that they can arrange direct payment with. But you can register at the medical centre if on campus at the beginning of the semester, and they can provide a lot of support. There's also Queen Mary's Hospital is just over the road from campus, and it has a minor injuries unit. So if there's kind of fairly minor sort of bumps and bruises or illnesses that you need to get seen to at a hospital, there's one very close by.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, Nat. And then another one, maybe we can kind of tag team answer here is about what do students do with money as far as transactions, bringing cash, credit cards and things abroad. I can maybe give a general answer for students we give advice for students traveling abroad to all of our programs internationally. Nat, maybe you have specific information about what is standard practice in London specifically. Mm-hmm. So for most students, we tell students to check with their bank. So for the most part, your ATM cards that you probably already have will work abroad. You just want to notify your bank that you're traveling internationally so they don't freeze your card because they think that someone stole it. And then you'll be able to take out local currency from an ATM. So you can go to an ATM in the UK, take out pounds. You can go to an ATM in mainland Europe and take out euro. And so you can have access to cash in the local currency through your US bank account. Depending on your bank, you may be charged ATM fees, you may not. There may be a currency conversion fee, there may not be. So we'll talk about all that stuff later. Credit cards generally too, depending on how it's linked. If you have it with your bank account, there might be foreign transaction fees. A lot of time if you apply for a credit card, like if you have like a Capital One or a Chase or something like that, where you're like getting points on a credit card, a lot of those don't have foreign transaction fees to where you can use those internationally the same way that you would use them at home. Nat, I don't know, is there specific advice about the way things work in London?
Yeah, no, I would say, like all of that is helpful. I'd say the main thing is to liaise with your bank directly, because everyone's different. Some students find it quite difficult to work with their bank abroad. Some students find it really easy. If your bank is maybe not playing ball, I would say it's quite easy to set up a kind of basic current account in the UK that you can wire some funds to at the start of the semester and then use while you're abroad. Something a few of our students do use, which is quite a new thing, is there's quite a few app-based banking services now in the UK. Two of the more popular ones are called Monzo, Monzo, and Revolut, which is just revolution without the ION at the end. So they don't have any physical branches. Everything's managed through the app, but you would get a debit card, much with kind of your kind of normal bank account that you can use for purchases and to withdraw money. They're also quite useful in that they won't charge any fees for use abroad as well. So if you want to go traveling in Europe while you're here as well, you won't incur any fees for that sort of thing. The only other thing I would say is London, especially since the pandemic, is increasingly cashless. So it's still worth having, access to hard currency. We, recommend carrying a bit of cash with you when you travel. But increasingly, and especially since COVID, a lot of places have actually started only accepting card payment. That might not be the case forever. But yeah, it's something to bear in mind. I can also see there's a question about transport, so I'll very, very briefly touch on one aspect of that, is that London buses, for instance, don't take cash anymore. So you'll either need your Oyster card, which is the smart card you use on public transport, or actually if you have a contactless debit or credit card, which has the 3 waves sign on it. It's kind of like a sideways Wi-Fi signal. Or equally, you can also use Apple or Google Pay. So contactless is very pervasive in the UK right now. It's how most people pay for things at the moment, I'd say.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Nat. Yeah, there's a couple quick ones I can answer here as far as vaccine requirements. Right now, Webster is requiring COVID vaccination for all of our study abroad students, but also if you're based in St. Louis, is requiring COVID vaccination for all of our students who are based on the campus. So that's not really anything different. That will help make things easier when traveling too. Restrictions continue to change, but going from the UK to Europe or around other places in the UK, just being able to hopefully continue to avoid quarantine requirements and entry restrictions and things like that. What that will definitely help. We'll continue to follow the news, as countries discuss boosters and how long are vaccinations good for and everything. That's still is a topic of conversation that we'll continue to follow and update you as anything changes with that. As far as finding out who else is going, yes, absolutely. Like I mentioned, we will meet the first weeks of October with everyone who is going to your destination. And then we'll have another pre-departure orientation in November for the spring semester. If you're looking at further in the future, this happens every semester. We have meetings with just the group, and then we have a pre-departure orientation for everybody who's going abroad. But then we separate people at that orientation. Everybody's together, and that's where you find out more information about like money and healthcare and get your health insurance cards and things we've talked about. But also you have the opportunity we group you towards the second half of that with just the people going to your destination. So there's the ability to exchange phone numbers and contact information and stuff with the people who will be traveling with you to figure out if there's people on your flight, and you can get to know each other ahead of time and that sort of thing. So definitely you'll have an opportunity for that. Nat, a question for you as far as picking courses and housing at Roehampton. How does that work?
Yeah, sure. So as Tyler mentioned, for those of you coming in the spring, once you've kind of completed your application with Webster, you'll then move on to submit your online application to Roehampton directly. During that process, you'll complete a section where you'll list 8 classes that you would, in order of preference, that you would be willing to take at Roehampton. We'd recommend getting all of those approved by your academic advisor before you submit those. And then essentially during that November time, we will go through all of those preferences that you've submitted, and we will allocate you 60 credits, which is usually 3 classes, provided hopefully we'll obviously allocate as many of your top 3 classes as we can. But if for any reason there's a clash or any other reason we can't allocate it, we'll go down your list of preferences until you're allocated a full 60 credits. In about mid-December, you'll receive an email to enroll online, at which point you'll be able to see your timetable, and you can also make changes once you arrive on campus. We have an add drop period during the first 2 weeks of classes, where you can make any last minute adjustments to your courses. Housing, you don't really need to worry about. All study abroad students from Webster are guaranteed on-campus accommodation. We automatically allocate you housing. The only reason you would really need to contact us about that is if you have any kind of special requests. So for instance, we do have a limited supply of ensuite rooms with private bathrooms. Most of our standard accommodation is shared bathroom, usually between about 6 students. So if you'd like to request a private bathroom adjoining your bedroom, you can email us to request that if you want. Similarly, if you have any health or disability related requirements, you can contact our disabilities team, which is literally just disabilities@roehampton.ac.uk.
Cool. Great, thanks. Now we've got a couple more questions, try to get through kind of quickly here so we can move on and hear from Tokyo a little bit, but some great questions definitely want to get answered. So can you touch, I know you touched a little bit with like contactless pay on buses. Do you want to mention just other public transportation briefly in London?
Yeah, sure. So the campus is very well connected. We have a lot of buses going from right outside the campus that connect us to places like Putney, Hammersmith, Richmond, which are all quite big hubs. We also have a train station about a 15-minute walk from campus, Barnes Station, which has direct trains into Clapham Junction and London Waterloo in 10 and 20 minutes respectively. These are both big hubs. Clapham Junction, I think, is the busiest train station in Europe. So you can get to lots of different places around London and the wider UK from there. I mentioned Oyster cards, which are kind of just a smart card that you can load with credit, and you just tap on a reader when you're boarding various forms of public transport. So it works on buses, trains, the underground, the subway, and then, as I mentioned, you can also use contactless pay on public transport. It costs the same as an Oyster card.
Great, thanks, Nat. I'll do one more question, and then I'll answer kind of the last question here, and then we'll move on. So, last question for you, Nat. Meal plans at Roehampton. So, I know meal plans aren't included with dorm housing the same way that they might be if you live on campus here in St. Louis, but there are dining options on campus. Do you want to quickly cover those, Nat?
Yeah, definitely. So we have a few different dining outlets on campus. We have 3 kind of cafeterias and 3 cafes, which are all operated by our catering team. You can purchase a meal plan. We have 3 tiers depending on how many kind of meals a week you'd like to get from that. So if you would still like a kind of similar experience that you might have at Webster with a meal plan, that is an option. If you don't have a meal plan though, you can still purchase food from those outlets on a kind of one-off basis. All your accommodation will also be equipped with a shared kitchen as well, and we have quite a few grocery options around campus. So it's very, very simple to cook your own meals as well. You'll probably find that most students do that. You'll find that most UK students don't opt for the meal plan, but it is there as an option if you want it.
Great, thanks, Nat. Really, really appreciate it. If anybody else thinks of any questions down the road, I'm happy to answer questions that I can or about the process or anything. If you want to talk to Nat or somebody else at Roehampton, for specific questions that are better answered by somebody who lives in London, I'm more than happy to connect you with them and get your questions answered. Real quickly, before we move on to Tokyo, there's another question that's kind of not London specific, but more general about the vaccine requirement. So we do require vaccination against COVID for all of our students studying abroad. Webster as an institution is reviewing vaccination exemption request on religious and medical grounds. So if you are applying for exemption based on medical grounds, you'll have to have documentation from your medical provider suggesting that it is not in your best interest for health reasons to get the COVID vaccination. But that is possible to submit a request for exemption. Just know that while traveling internationally, that might make you subject to quarantine requirements or prohibit you from entry to certain places, or require you to have very frequent testing depending on where you are. But that is an option if you have health concerns related to the vaccine. But yeah, thank you very much, Nat. Thank you everybody for your questions. We will go ahead. I'll turn it over to Mari, who is from our partner university, J.F. Oberlin University in Tokyo, and I will let her take over.
Hi, Tyler. Hi, Webster students. Thank you very much. I enjoyed Nat's presentation. Thank you. I would like to be a student and go to your school. My name is Mari Maruyama, and I'm actually based in Seattle. We are a nonprofit. Oberlin Gakuen Foundation of America is a nonprofit that really basically works with J.F. Oberlin University in Tokyo and North America. So I work with all the different partners in Canada and in the United States. So let's see, how about am I able to take over the screen?
Yes, you should be able to share your screen.
Okay. All right, are you able to see the screen?
Yes.
Great, okay. So I actually was an exchange student in Kyoto and Tokyo many decades ago. My experience in Japan as an exchange student will be very different from what your experience will be. I think nowadays, if you're not an avid Japanese language student, you don't necessarily need to be fluent in Japanese to be able to get around, especially in the Tokyo area, Kyoto area. There's so much English going around. And especially because of the preparation for the Tokyo Olympics, things have been really changed for tourists so that it makes it a lot easier to get around without the language. But if you are a Japanese language student, I do challenge you to make the effort to not fall back on English and push to use your Japanese as much as you can. I've had a lot of experience in international exchange, student, university, adult, working a lot with the different Japanese foundations and bringing people here to the States, also sending people from the States to Japan. Here's my contact info. Tyler has all of that as well. So if you have questions later after this is over, feel free to call or email. I am, like I said, in Seattle, so I'm 2 hours behind you all. And all right, brief introduction. So what I'm going to do during this time we have is to go over basically the university itself. I'll talk about the dorm situation, courses, and then we'll end up with a couple of videos as well as some answers to some frequently asked questions. So this is obviously the campus, the main campus. So there are several campuses. This is the one in Machida, and this is Tokyo Prefecture. And the little bump out that you see here where it says Machida campus, that part is in Kanagawa Prefecture. And there are 2 campuses in this little portion of the map here, Machida, the main campus, and the original campus of J.F. Oberlin University, and Planet Fuchinobe campus, which is a building located right next to Fuchinobe train station, and also the international dorms. And from that train station, or from Machida train station, you can take a train into downtown Tokyo, like Shinjuku or Shibuya, It's about a 30-minute to 40-minute train ride, depending on which train you catch. So there's a local that goes to every single stop in between, or semi-express or express. So, and like in London, there is a smart card that you can use to pay for your transportation. You just tap on the ticket gate. And also you can use this card to purchase stuff at like 7-Eleven or AM/PM, the different convenience stores. You can also use it to pay for really quite a lot of things. A lot of stores now offer the ability to use your Suica. It's called a Suica card, to pay for transportation, to pay for food. Sometimes at restaurants you can also use that too. So really, like Nat was mentioning, it's really becoming more and more of a cashless society. Japan used to be really only cash, but for the past, the Suica card's been around for quite a while, and many more businesses are using it because of the convenience. Let's see. So there are other campuses as well that I don't have highlighted here, but the business campus is in Shinjuku, which is, let's see, so the train station, Shinjuku train station is the busiest in Japan. And the campus is located basically one stop from Shinjuku Station. That campus was just built a few years ago and is quite new. There, the College of Performing and Visual Arts is next in a city next to Machida, or a village, I guess, next to Machida. And that's also brand new. It just opened last year. And the College of Aviation Management is in a different neighborhood called Tama, and they also just opened recently. So J.F. Oberlin University comprises of liberal arts college, as well as some pre-professional, professional colleges. So like the aviation, business colleges. And the student population. So it's almost about 10,000 students across the 6 campuses. And about 800 of these individuals are from 23 countries. So almost, not quite 10% of the student body is international. JFOU has 190 partner institutions throughout the world, among 34 countries. And here are the campuses. Machida is the main, Fuchinobe, Tama, Yotsuya, and Shinjuku. And let's see here. Let's see if I can get. Here's just a brief promo.
Writing's not that easy, but Grammarly can help.
Yes.
What happened to my YouTube? Let me go back to that. Let me just skip this for a second. I've been having trouble with my video links. All right, so on to the exchange program. So the Renaissance Japan program, or what we call the RJ program, is a semester or a full year. So you can choose either to come spring, fall, or stay for both fall and spring semesters. So this, right now, we're recruiting for spring semester, of course, and you could elect to stay through fall if you wanted to. You can change your mind once you're in Japan after talking to your study abroad advisor. That is an option. You will be focusing on Japanese language in the mornings, and then you will have the option of taking some elective courses. And the next slide, I'll show you some courses that you have an option to take. There are 6 levels of Japanese. So depending on where you are in your language studies, you'll be placed in one of these 6 levels. So as you can see, even if you have 1 semester of Japanese, you can still go to JFOU and join Japanese level 1. Here are some courses that are offered in the spring. So you've got a selection from Japanese history, to Japanese business management, communication, literature, a variety of courses. So you'll take classes, Japanese language classes in the morning, and then have a couple of elective classes throughout the week. While you're studying, sometimes we get questions about working while in Japan. And on a student visa, you can work up to 28 hours a week, but I really don't recommend working so many hours, just because if you're only there for a semester, for example, you don't want to take away time from doing various cultural activities or visiting different tourist sites or just really participating in clubs, that kind of thing. But on campus, you could, if you wanted to, apply to be part of what's called the Brown Bag Cafe. And that Brown Bag Cafe, they have different language. Basically, it's like conversation tables during lunch. So you bring your lunch, and the university hires different native speakers, so Chinese, Korean, English speakers. And then they'll set up a time when you can meet with students who are interested in speaking only that language during that time. And you can be paid roughly $12 an hour. It really depends on the exchange rate, but roughly $12 an hour for that. And you can interview for that position. And so that's not so onerous, because it's not all day long or daily or so. And it really does give you the opportunity to interact with Japanese students, as well as through using English to talk about Japan. And I think students then are comfortable because they can speak about something they already know. So they'll be more, it'll be a lot easier to have a conversation that way. Or they might ask you questions about St. Louis or about your hometown. And then you can learn how to basically help students whose native language is not English. All right, cultural activities. So as you can see here, I don't know how clear these pictures are to you, but they do have like Halloween parties. Halloween is becoming kind of a big thing in Japan. So normally it used to be only for little kids, but as you can see here, adults are dressing up. There are various festivals. So since you'll be there through July, a lot of summer festivals. If you can see this photo on the upper, I guess left, they're carrying what's called omikoshi, which is a neighborhood, kind of like a shrine. And different people will hold this very heavy shrine and walk around and chant, and it's quite fun. On the bottom in this picture where you see this fellow in the purple jacket, he is actually pounding rice in a traditional way to make rice cakes, and you can participate in that. And that is typically, that typically happens in January. So this is something you wouldn't be able to see if you were a spring student, but fall students would be able to participate in that. So, and Mount Fuji is not too far away from this location, perhaps like 30 minutes by bullet train. And let's see. Then they also do have a camp, an orientation camp. And this is an opportunity to get together with all the international students and some Japanese students where they are away from campus. And they do a variety of kind of icebreakers to help students get to know Japan, JFOU students. All right, so dormitory. So this building is one of 2 international dorms, and half of the dorm population is made up of Japanese students, JFOU students, and the other half, all the other international students. And the majority of the rooms are studio apartments. There are some doubles and triples, but not really a whole lot. And I don't know if you can see the the electrical lines at the bottom of the photo, and you can see the top of a train. So the train station is right next door, making it really convenient. And from that particular train station, there is a bus that is provided by the university that is free, that will take you to Machida campus, and which is about a 10-minute bus ride, if that, from the bus station, which is like a 4-minute walk from the dorm. And then you can get on the bus to campus, and of course, take the bus back to your dorm. Near this dorm is a supermarket. There are lots of convenience stores. When you go to Japan, you'll see that there are many, many convenience stores. Very unlike the convenience stores here in the US. The convenience stores really have everything you can imagine. It's kind of unbelievable. So the very first thing I do when I go to Japan, I arrive usually from Seattle. We arrive around 4 p.m. And by the time I get to my hotel, it's like 6:30, so I'm ready for dinner. And the first thing I'll do is I'll go to a convenience store like a 7-Eleven or an AM/PM and buy my dinner. And it is actually quite delicious, believe it or not. So I think you'll be doing that as well. This is the dormitory setup. So this is a studio. And as you can see, it has a tiny kitchenette. So there is no meal plan at JFOU. You will prepare your own meals. There is a cafeteria. There's also a convenience store on campus, and a coffee shop, that sort of thing. And during lunchtime, in various locations around campus, people will bring in bentos, if you're familiar with bento. And you can buy those for really inexpensive, like $4, $5 for lunch. And there are some bentos that are very popular. So you would have to scope out each location and then make sure you're there first in line to get the bento that you want. Otherwise, you can make your own meals. It comes with a bed, a study desk, bookcase, refrigerator. You can see the bathroom. And then on the other side of the bathroom is a balcony. The balcony faces actually the train line, so you can see the trains coming and going. And here are some photos. This is a picture of the inside of an empty room. And when you arrive, you will buy your own, Oberlin has a package of linens and towels. And so then you would have that. And so you don't need to bring a pillow or anything like that. It has an air conditioner, which is also a heater as well. Let's see what other questions. Past students leave behind dishes, silverware, small appliances, hangers, and all of that is located in a room downstairs, and you can just take whatever you want to use. You know, people leave behind different like desk organizers and pens and all sorts of things. So really you don't need to worry about buying pots and pans and that sort of thing. And each floor comes with a laundry room, a coin laundry, as well as a larger kitchen, kind of a communal kitchen. And a lot of times students from different countries will, prepare meals and kind of share culinary culture. And that's a lot of fun. So not only will you learn about Japan, but you will learn about different countries while living in the dorms. The main areas have wireless Wi-Fi, but in your rooms it's wired internet, so you'll need an Ethernet cable. I think slowly they're converting to Wi-Fi, but right now make sure you have a cord, Ethernet cord. Let's see, this particular dormitory on the side where it's red, that side is actually the YMCA. It's a little different from the YMCA's here. I wasn't able to go inside, so I can't tell you what it looks like inside, but it's very similar to the Ys here. But I don't know if they have a gym or anything like that, so You can use the gym though on campus. The calendar schedule. So for spring, this isn't set quite yet, but next month is the nomination period. So if you're interested, please tell your study abroad advisor. And then the application, we hope, will be up online October 1st. There might be a little bit of delay, I'm not sure. They're still working on a lot of details. And then it closes on the 15th. And what I forgot to put on the slide is that my organization also offers some assistance if you require like assistance with the housing portion that you just have to apply for. And I can explain that to your study advisor about that. But of course, tuition is covered with our exchange agreement with Webster, so you don't have to worry about the tuition portion. And let's see, you would arrive approximately March 25, and then orientation is from roughly the 26th until the 9th, and classes begin. Again, these dates are approximate. And the last day is roughly middle of July, and you've got final exams, and then you would depart at the end of July. And transcripts are issued roughly a month after the departure date. Now, if for some reason we still are involved in, dealing with COVID, then most likely a lot of the orientation might be done online before you come to Japan. And then you would arrive in Japan a few days before classes begin so that you could do a quarantine. Right now, the Japanese government has a quarantine specific, like kind of a number of days by the state you are coming from. So I haven't seen Missouri on that list yet. So it's probably, okay, you won't have to do quarantine, but that changes weekly. So the Japanese government is tracking basically numbers of infections, hospitalizations, that kind of thing to determine. So like my state, I have to, if I go to Japan now, I would have to spend 3 days in a government assigned hotel in quarantine, and then spend a few more days in quarantine at the end location whatever hotel I choose. But then I would have to also do some COVID testing, even though I'm vaccinated. Again, I think these will likely change as we move through the year. So anyway, so these dates are just as if we have no COVID, so that you just go and participate as we would normally. All right, here's some FAQs. Can you choose to do a homestay instead of living in a dorm? So JFOU does not arrange any homestays anymore, but if you have relatives or friends who live nearby and you really would like to live with them, then all you have to do is let us know and just give us all the different contact information, and that's fine, of course, to do. We don't recommend that you find an apartment on your own if you don't know anyone. It's, first of all, very difficult to find housing if you are not, don't have a job, obviously. So living in the international dorm is something we really recommend. And next, part-time job I already mentioned. You can work up to 28 hours a week, but I don't recommend working that many hours. If you're there a year, then maybe in your second semester, you could up the hours. But really, studying abroad, that year, it seems like a long time, but or even a semester, it really goes fast. And you don't want to miss any kind of opportunities. And I highly recommend that you focus on club activities and, of course, your classes. Really engaging in the local community. And I think I already mentioned too, Students are allowed to extend their study period. Yes, of course, on Oberlin side, you can, as long as you're doing well, if you have good grades and good attendance, and of course, if Webster approves. And that's it. Let me see if I can upload that video again. Let me try. In the meantime, while I'm fiddling around, questions. Let's see, should I can stop sharing the screen.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to type questions in the chat as well, they can.
All right. So let's see.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How intensive are the language classes? Like if you're starting with level 1?
They are pretty intensive as far as it's conducted in Japanese, right? So it's called immersion style teaching. And if you are familiar with any kind of language education, even first year language classes begin with using a lot of gestures and utilizing photos, visuals to aid in language acquisition. So you're not doing kind of translation, which a long time ago in the US, it was more, you started using English to learn whatever foreign language. But the movement has been over the past 20 years towards incorporating the language into the lessons so that you're not relying so much on English. I don't know if that answers your question. I mean, it can be intense if you're not used to that style of learning, but in the long run, it's proven to be much more effective. And of course, you're in Japan, so you'll be immersed in hearing the language as well. Does that help answer your question, Eve?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Let's see. What is? So is this question for me the transportation, or was it for London? Oh, that was for London. But I can answer. It's basically train, bus. The fare depends on distance from your entry point. So, but it's generally for 1 or 2 or 3 stops, like $2. Train, buses have roughly the same fare as well. And
yeah, and if anybody thinks of any other questions too, even after we leave today, I'll put my direct email in the chat here, and I can certainly put you in touch. If you maybe you wrote down Mari's email from that first slide, but I can certainly put you in touch with Mari as well if you have any specific questions about the program in Tokyo that are things that I can't answer. I'm more than happy to put you in touch.
yeah, I can also put.
Do students have like a metro pass, like a pass for transportation? Is that cost covered, like through financial aid, or?
Let's see, I don't know if that's a Tyler question, but
yeah, so it wouldn't be covered on our end, but I don't know if if there like a student rate for public transportation or anything like that.
Yeah, there is a student rate, and that would be, you would get all that information once there. But as far as loading the money to use it for like at the 7-Eleven or whatever convenience stores, that is on your own. But now that you asked that question, I don't know how they separate student fare from. That's a good question. Let me ask that. Because it's all on one smart card. So I don't know how it would differentiate. And then I'll let Tyler know what I find out. Good question. let me see, let me upload. I'm going to give you the link to the videos because I am not able to.
Okay. Great. And I'll share the link to this recording. Anybody who's watching this later via recording, I'll share the links out, or you can reach out and I can share links. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording for now.
Okay.
But I can definitely share these links out with anybody moving.
I guess the last thing I wanted to mention is we are also working with Webster on a game design. So there's a professor at Webster who is offering a course in the spring of game design. And I think, I don't know if the students have already been selected or will be selected, or.
Yes, the program is, the program's already full. Basically, we're still accepting students to a wait list for the program, but the course has filled already.
Okay, it was just postponed from October to March.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know if any of you are in that group.
Not sure. I don't think so.
Okay, then I won't explain it because. All right. Of the students participating, how many of you are studying Japanese or are studying about Japan, or?
I'm gonna go ahead and